So that groupie level of attention won't exist at A&T, and we don't want that. It's because we're not that kind of program. For Jackson, it worked out great because Jackson is a great program, but they needed to add a spark to get things back. You know, and Deion was definitely a spark. Bethune tried the same thing, but see, it's hit or miss.
What do you think went wrong there? Why didn't that work out in your opinion?
Well, one, they let him on campus. I almost cursed this dude. But they let him on campus before he had a contract, you know, and they let him get engaged with the students before he was hired. So you got football players like, that's our coach, but he ain't even put ink on paper. And they want this guy they've known for 2 or 3 weeks. I understand. He's passionate. Good. Got it. But he's shown that he's also maybe not the best spokesperson for the university.
You have crackheads walking through campus, man. There's no security for these young women and men. I'm not trying to bash the school. We were picking up trash when I was screen recorded. I didn't post that. Somebody screen recorded me and put that out there because they said I was mutting the school. I'm not mutting the school. We're picking up trash. At the time, you telling me I'm mutting the school. I'm on the ground grabbing trash from under trees behind bushes because my football team was acting too cute.
You know, like the way you handle things. Like this is something like it put Coach Brown into a better parallel when seeing what was happening with Reed.
Right.
Like, oh man, like we got none of those problems. Like, you know, if and see, this is a problem that we kind of have. It's a generational thing. Like when I was at A&T, if you didn't like something or something was not to your liking, you just fixed it yourself or you just did it yourself. You're like, man, I'm not doing that. I'll clean it, you know, because I still got to use it. But now they just won't use it and be expecting somebody else to clean it and then they'll complain about it. It's like, nah, y'all are stewards of this university too. So get in. So with like Reed, if he'd have just flipped the message and said, hey guys, I'm here, I'm new, but I see some things that we can work on together. Let's have all the athletes together and let's clean up the camps. Let's, you know what I'm saying? I'm rich, I'll pay for food. You know, instead, he goes on social media like a raving maniac and gets mad at the school and the hurricane and whoever else. He's punching windows. He's back and forth with Deion. He's back and forth with Shannon Sharp. He's on interviews. And this is all without getting the job.
We talked about this. We know the structure. We know the order. We know how it was going to play out. And you've been there fighting. I know what you're feeling. I know what you're going through. You got to understand, Ed, God has a time and a place for you, my brother. And I know your heart. I know everything that's going on inside of you. You know, I know you like a book. And I know how you feel about them kids, and I know you do not want to leave those kids.
Locking down the triad, do you think that Coach Brown would do a better job of that? Has that been an emphasis around there that you've been hearing about?
Yes, I did want to get back to Coach Brown. All right, so as far as how we felt about the hire, you know, there have been rumblings with alumni about how people perceive things with the program and everything. So people did want some things to change. Did they want a new coach? I don't know. But I know that obviously we know the powers that be did want a new coach. Coach Brown gets hired and most were pleasantly surprised is the best way to put it.
Okay.
His demeanor, the way he carries himself, his integrity, his engagement is different than what the Aggies are traditionally used to.
How would you say different? Like different how?
Things have been typically kept in-house, closed mouth. Coach Brown is a bit more approachable. Like he follows me on Twitter. Like that's crazy. You know, like only assistant coaches have followed me on Twitter. And the fact that he's a full-grown head coach in the CAA and he has his own Twitter account, all that. Sam Washington didn't have a Twitter account.
Got you.
See what I'm saying? So that's kind of like a sign of the times thing where you're like, okay, this guy's a bit more engaged. He's got a pulse of things. And he's literally in week 3 and he's already offered like 8 or 9 players, and he's already got commits. So
I've seen that.
Right, he's not playing around. He didn't come to A&T to get on social media and talk about what A&T is doing. He came to A&T to get to work and make A&T a better place and make the football program a better place. And you have to respect that. It is noble and honorable the way he's taken things into his hands. And like, who wouldn't want a coach that literally gets right to work? He hadn't said a peep since his actual day of hiring. Like, there's only been like maybe a couple of interviews, requests, but otherwise he's working every day, and you gotta love that. Not that the former coaches didn't, but there were other issues with that, and they were hamstrung by other things. And I think that was part of the transition. Like the transition happened kind of like in really 3 or 4 stages, because there was Broadway, then there was Washington, and then we lost the coaches to North Carolina Central and Fort Valley last year.
Right.
We had a bunch of guys coming this year to help out Sam Washington, almost like he called in a mob squad to help out for this season. Last season, the Big South, they were expected to win the championship, and I think winning that championship really left a bad taste.
What? Because they were in the finals against Campbell, right?
Actually, Gardner-Webb, the final game of the season.
Gardner-Webb, okay.
Was the game to decide the champion, and we lost. So technically we were co-champions, but we weren't because we lost to the champion.
Right.
So,
right.
Second place just wasn't good enough, and I felt like people were fuming, but there were other issues, things that I feel like Coach Brown is going to handle. Like player discipline was a big issue.
Yeah.
And I've seen it myself. I mean, not naming no names, but sometimes after the play, there's a lot of barking when you should be getting back to your position. And I don't know if that's Washington's style, but let's just say it had become the team style. And that lack of discipline showed on the field. I mean, we were a heavily penalized team the last 2 years, very heavily penalized. Now, some of it I gave, fresh off of COVID, I give it to guys getting back in shape, guys happy to be back on the field. But this year they had a goal. But I mean, still, we had quarterback injury issues this year. I mean, Washington did what he could, what he had.
You are now locked into the Live with Brandon Blakney podcast. Here is your host, Brandon Blakney.